2 suitcases. That's all 42 years amounts to when a marriage dies. I stood on the front steps of what used to be my home, fingers trembling around worn handles. The November wind cut through my coat, the expensive one Michael bought me 3 Christmases ago, back when he still pretended to care. Inside, he was probably already redecorating, erasing me. I descended the steps, each one a countdown to homelessness. The divorce papers said, irreconcilable differences. What they meant was, you get nothing. New York City swallowed me whole that afternoon. The streets I once walked with confidence now felt like a maze designed to humiliate me. Every face that passed seemed to know there goes the woman who lost everything. By sunset, I found myself on a bench in Prospect Park, watching joggers pass. They had somewhere to go. I didn't. My phone buzzed. A text from my lawyer. Settlement final. Account frozen. I'm sorry. 42 years old. Homeless. Broke. Abandoned. The word restart felt like a sick joke when you had nothing left to start with. What would you do if your partner left you with absolutely nothing? Drop a comment. Have you ever felt this abandoned? 3 days later, I was still on that bench. Different coat now, something from a donation bin that smelled like mothballs and someone else's life. My suitcases sat beside me like loyal dogs with nowhere else to go. I was studying the help wanted section of a discarded newspaper when the shadow fell across the page. Lydia Walker. I looked up. The man was tall, 60s, expensive suit that screamed attorney. His face was unfamiliar, but his eyes held something strange, pity mixed with urgency. Who's asking? My voice came out rougher than intended. He extended a business card. Gregory Hanks, Estate Law, Chicago. I've been searching for you for 2 weeks. He sat down without invitation, producing a manila envelope with a wax seal. Your father passed away 6 months ago. My throat tightened. Carl Walker, a name I'd spent 20 years trying to forget. I don't care. You should. Gregory placed the envelope in my lap. He left you his entire estate. The words didn't register at first. Then slowly, like ice cracking. What estate? Gregory's expression shifted, something darker beneath the professional mask. $60 million. The newspaper slipped from my fingers. $60 million. That's not possible. My father was complicated? Yes. Gregory leaned closer, voice dropping. Miss Walker, your father was many things, but poor wasn't one of them. My hands shook as I opened the envelope. Legal documents, bank statements, property deeds. The numbers blurred together, each zero a punch to the gut. Why now? Why me? We hadn't spoken in 23 years. I'm aware. Gregory stood, adjusting his cufflinks. There's a catch, of course. There always is with men like your father. My stomach dropped. What catch? The money comes with conditions. Dangerous ones. Your father made enemies, Miss Walker. Powerful enemies who believe that inheritance belongs to them. He handed me a plane ticket. Chicago. Tomorrow. We'll discuss the details at my office. He walked away before I could respond, leaving me alone with an envelope that weighed more than both my suitcases combined. $60 million. From a father I'd buried in my mind years ago. If someone offered you millions, but it came with deadly strings attached, would you take it? Comment below what's your survival instinct telling you. The plane lifted off, and I pressed my forehead against the cold window, watching New York shrink beneath me. 23 years since I'd last seen Carl Walker. 23 years since he'd looked at my mother across the dinner table and said, I'm done pretending to be something I'm not. 3 weeks later, my mother vanished. Police called it abandonment. I called it something else, something the 10-year-old version of myself couldn't quite name, but felt deep in my bones. Now Carl was dead. And somehow, impossibly, he'd left me everything. The flight attendant offered peanuts. I declined. My stomach hadn't settled since Gregory handed me that envelope. I pulled out my phone, fingers hovering over Michael's number. Would he care? Would he suddenly remember I existed now that I wasn't broke? Delete. I opened the estate documents instead. Property holdings in Chicago, investment portfolios, offshore accounts. My father had built an empire, and I'd never known. But Gregory's words echoed, dangerous ones. The passenger beside me, a businessman with tired eyes, glanced at my papers. Estate planning, something like that. My advice? Read everything twice, especially the fine print. He returned to his laptop. Rich dead men always leave traps. My pulse quickened. At O'Hare, Gregory waited by baggage claim, holding a sign with my name. Professional. Rehearsed. But his eyes darted toward the exits every few seconds. Expecting someone? I asked. Always. He grabbed my suitcase. We need to move quickly. Your father's death wasn't natural. The words hit like a slap. What? Later. In the car. Gregory steered me through the crowd, his grip firm on my elbow. Rule 1, Miss Walker. Trust no one. Not even me. We emerged into Chicago's bitter wind. A black sedan idled at the curb, driver already inside. My father was murdered? My voice cracked. Gregory opened the door. Your father was many things. A businessman, a philanthropist. He paused, meeting my eyes, and a money launderer for one of the most dangerous crime syndicates in the Midwest. The world tilted. Get in the car, Miss Walker. Because the people who killed your father? They know you're here, and they want their money back. My legs moved on autopilot. I slid into the leather seat, heart hammering against my ribs. As the sedan pulled away from the curb, I caught movement in the side mirror, a man in a gray coat, watching. He raised a phone to his ear. Gregory followed my gaze. They're already tracking you. The danger just became real. Subscribe now, you won't want to miss what's waiting at the mansion. The mansion rose from the Chicago suburbs like something out of a Gothic nightmare. 3 stories of stone and iron, surrounded by gates that looked designed to keep people in rather than out. Bare trees clawed at the gray sky, their branches casting skeletal shadows across the circular driveway. Welcome home, Gregory said, though nothing about this place felt welcoming. The front door groaned open, revealing a foyer that smelled of old money and older secrets. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings. Oil paintings of stern-faced men lined the walls, none of them my father. He bought this place in 1998, Gregory explained, his voice echoing. Paid cash. $3 million. My footsteps clicked against marble floors. With laundered money. Your father preferred the term diversified income streams. I stopped at a portrait of a woman in a red dress, dark hair cascading over her shoulders. The face was familiar in a way that made my chest ache. That's not your mother. Yes. Gregory stood beside me, painted 2 months before she disappeared. My fingers traced the frame. My mother looked happy, alive, young. What happened to her? Gregory's silence answered everything. We moved through the mansion room after room of wealth and emptiness. A library with leather-bound books no one had read. A dining room with a table set for 12. A music room with a piano covered in dust. Your father lived here alone for 20 years, Gregory said. No staff, no visitors, just him and his ghosts. The second floor held bedrooms frozen in time. One room smaller than the others made me stop. Pink wallpaper, a twin bed with a stuffed rabbit, a shelf of children's books. My room, preserved exactly as I'd left it at age 10. He never changed it, Gregory said softly. Every year on your birthday, he'd sit in here for hours. My throat closed. I couldn't process this, the father who abandoned me keeping a shrine to the daughter he'd pushed away. Why? If he cared, why didn't he? Because caring about you made you a target. Gregory moved to the window, scanning the grounds. The syndicate your father worked for doesn't believe in loose ends. Family is leverage. He kept you away to keep you safe. Safe? I laughed bitterly. I was homeless 3 days ago, but alive. The weight of those words settled over me. Gregory pulled a key from his pocket. There's something you need to see. 3rd floor. Your father's study. He pressed the key into my palm. Everything you need to know about who he was and who wants you dead is in that room. The mansion holds more than money. It holds the truth. And some truths are worth killing for. The 3rd floor study was locked behind a door that looked like it belonged in a bank vault. My hands shook as I inserted the key. The mechanism clicked heavy, final, and the door swung inward. The room beyond was a time capsule of paranoia. Filing cabinets lined every wall. A desk buried under paperwork dominated the center. But what caught my attention was the corkboard mounted above the desk: photographs, newspaper clippings, red string connecting names and faces in a web of conspiracy. My father's handwriting covered everything. Notes, dates, question marks. And in the center of it all, a photograph of my mother. I stepped closer, pulse hammering. The photo showed my mother outside a restaurant, laughing with a man I didn't recognize. The date written below, the 15th of September, 2001, 2 days before disappearance. My father's note beside it, Vincent Castellano. Enforcer, threatened exposure. M, knew too much. M, my mother's initial. My knees weakened. I gripped the desk for support, scanning the other documents. Bank transfers. Police reports marked "Case Closed." A death certificate that made my blood run cold. Maria Elena Walker, deceased. Body never recovered. No. The word came out strangled. I tore through the files, hands desperate. More photos, more evidence. A letter in my father's handwriting, sealed in plastic. To whoever finds this. I killed my wife to save my daughter. The syndicate discovered Maria was cooperating with federal investigators. They ordered me to eliminate her or watch Lydia die instead. I made the choice any father would make. I've lived with that choice every day since. The money I leave behind is blood money, built on lies, sustained by violence. Lydia deserves better than this inheritance, but it's the only apology I can offer. Forgive me, or don't, but survive. Carl Walker. The letter slipped from my fingers. My father murdered my mother, to save me. The room spun. 23 years of wondering, of imagining my mother choosing to leave all of it a lie. A horrible, necessary lie. Behind me, footsteps. Gregory stood in the doorway, expression unreadable. You found it. You knew. My voice was ice. You knew what he did. I knew what he had to do. Gregory entered slowly, hands visible. Your father spent 2 decades protecting you from this truth. The syndicate never discovered you existed, he made sure of that. Until now. Until now, Gregory agreed. Because your father made one final mistake. He included you in his will. And the moment that will was filed, every person he ever betrayed started looking for you. I backed against the desk. Why tell me this? Why bring me here? Gregory's expression darkened. Because you need to understand what you're up against. And because his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and his face went pale. We need to leave. Now. Some secrets are buried for a reason. But once they're unearthed, there's no going back. We didn't make it to the door. The voice from the foyer stopped us both cold. Lydia? Baby, is that you? Michael. My ex-husband stood at the bottom of the grand staircase, looking exactly as he had 3 weeks ago when he'd handed me divorce papers, expensive suit, perfect hair. That smile that used to make me feel safe, now it made my skin crawl. How did you... I started. Find you? Michael climbed the stairs slowly, deliberately. Come on. You really think I'd let you disappear without keeping tabs? Gregory stepped between us. Mr. Chen, this is a private estate. You're trespassing. Trespassing? Michael laughed. I'm here for my wife. Ex-wife, I corrected, voice shaking. What do you want, Michael? He reached the landing, and I saw it then, the calculation in his eyes. The same look he'd had when he'd convinced me to sign a prenup, when he'd isolated me from friends, when he'd slowly, methodically, dismantled my independence. I heard about your inheritance. He moved closer. 60 million. That's substantial. It has nothing to do with you, doesn't it? Michael's smile widened. We were married when your father died. Technically, I could make a claim. The divorce was finalized before the will was executed. Gregory interrupted. You have no legal standing. Michael's jaw tightened. Legal standing. Right. He turned to me, dropping the pretense. You have no idea what you've gotten yourself into. That money? It's marked. Dirty. Every dollar your father earned was bought with blood. How do you know that? My pulse quickened. Because I've been investigating your father for 6 months. Michael pulled out his phone, showing me a badge photo. D. Special Agent Michael Chen. I married you to get close to Carl Walker. The words hit like bullets. You're a federal agent? Was. Michael pocketed the phone. Until your father's death closed the investigation. Now I'm just a guy trying to save his ex-wife from making a fatal mistake. My world tilted. Our entire marriage a lie. Every kiss, every promise, every moment I'd believed he loved me, all of it fabricated. You used me. I protected you, Michael snapped. Do you know how many times I kept the syndicate from discovering you existed? How many leads I buried to keep you safe? Safe? My voice rose. You destroyed my life. I saved it. Michael grabbed my shoulders. And I'm trying to save it again. Give up the inheritance, Lydia. Walk away. These people don't negotiate, they eliminate. Gregory pulled Michael's hands off me. She's not going anywhere with you. Michael's expression went cold. Then she's a dead woman. Trust no one. Not your ex. Not your lawyer. Not even yourself. Comment if you think I can survive this. Get out. My voice cut through the tension like a blade. Michael blinked. What? I said, get out. Of this house. Of my life. I stepped forward, something hardening inside me. You want to save me? You already destroyed me. The divorce, the homelessness, My voice cracked. You took everything. To protect you. To use me. The words exploded out. You married me for an investigation. You pretended to love me for 6 years. And now you expect me to believe you care? Michael's mask slipped just for a second, revealing something desperate underneath. The syndicate will kill you, Lydia. They've already put a price on your head. How much? I crossed my arms. What's my life worth to them? 5 million. The number hung in the air. Gregory spoke quietly. That's less than 10% of the inheritance. Exactly. Michael turned to him. Which means they want her alive long enough to transfer the assets. Once she does, she's worthless. He looked back at me. Sign over the money. Disappear. I can arrange witness protection. Witness protection? I laughed bitterly. So I can spend the rest of my life hiding? Looking over my shoulder? Better than being dead. Is it? I moved to the window, staring at the grounds below. I've spent 23 years running from my father's legacy, pretending I came from somewhere clean, somewhere normal, and where did that get me? Homeless. Broke. Married to a liar. Lydia. No. I turned, and for the first time since the divorce, I felt something other than pain. My father spent 2 decades protecting me from this world. He murdered my mother to keep me safe. He died alone in this mansion, surrounded by guilt and ghosts. My voice steadied. I'm done running. Michael's expression darkened. Then you're choosing death. I'm choosing power. I met his eyes. That 60 million? It's mine. Every blood-soaked dollar. And I'm going to use it to burn down everything my father built, and everyone who helped him build it. Silence. Gregory's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, face paling. We have a problem. Another one? I asked. The syndicate just sent a message. Gregory turned the phone around, showing a photo. It was my childhood bedroom, the pink wallpaper, the stuffed rabbit, and a note written in red. We're already inside. The house isn't safe. Nowhere is. Subscribe before the trap closes. Gregory grabbed my arm. Basement. Now. What about? I looked toward Michael. He can rot. Gregory pulled me toward the service stairs, but Michael blocked our path. You're not going anywhere with him? Move, Gregory growled. Not until she hears the truth. Michael's hand moved to his waistband to a gun I hadn't noticed before. Gregory Hanks isn't a lawyer. He's your father's partner. The words froze us all. I looked between them. What? Your father's business partner, Michael repeated, weapon trained on Gregory. The syndicate's accountant. The man who helped Carl Walker launder $500 million over 20 years. Gregory's expression went carefully blank. Tell her, Michael pressed. Tell her why you really brought her here. The silence stretched too long. Gregory? My voice trembled. He sighed, and the professional mask finally cracked. Your father and I built an empire together. But 6 months ago, he decided he wanted out. Wanted to go legitimate? Confess everything? Gregory's eyes hardened. 60 million was his exit payment buying his way out of the syndicate. And you couldn't let that happen, Michael finished. I tried to stop him. Tried to make him see reason. Gregory's hand moved to his own weapon. But Carl was stubborn. Said he wanted to leave something clean for his daughter. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw the predator beneath. So yes, I killed him. The confession hit like a physical blow. The inheritance, the threats, bringing you here, all of it was designed to draw out Carl's federal contacts, to discover who he'd been talking to before I silenced him. Gregory smiled coldly, and it worked. Special Agent Chen revealed himself beautifully. Michael's gun didn't waver. The house is surrounded. FBI, DEA, you're finished. Am I? Gregory grabbed me, pulling me against him. His weapon pressed to my temple. I've been 3 steps ahead this entire time. The photo in the bedroom? My people. The surveillance? Mine. Even this conversation. He dragged me toward the window. Recorded and encrypted. Below, the grounds were empty. No FBI. No cavalry. Michael's face went pale. You see, Agent Chen, I've been playing this game longer than you've been alive. Gregory's voice was ice. The syndicate doesn't want Lydia dead. They want her complicit. Signed legal documents transferring assets. Clean paperwork. He pressed the gun harder. And she's going to give it to them. I won't. My voice shook but held firm. Oh, you will. Because if you don't... Gregory nodded toward Michael. He dies first. Then we start working through everyone you've ever cared about. The room felt airless. Michael met my eyes across the space between us. Don't do it. Don't let him. The gunshot was deafening. Everything just changed. You need to see what happens next. Michael crumpled. I screamed. But Gregory's hand clamped over my mouth, muffling the sound. Relax. Shoulder wound. Non-fatal. He released me, keeping the gun trained. But the next one won't be. Michael groaned on the floor, blood spreading across expensive carpet. His weapon had skittered out of reach. Sign the papers, Miss Walker. Gregory produced documents from his jacket. Transfer of assets. All $60 million to offshore accounts I control. Do it and you both walk away. My hands shook as I took the papers. My mind raced 23 years of running, 3 weeks of homelessness, 6 years married to a lie. And now this. Sign away everything or watch Michael die. The man who destroyed my life. The man who might be the only person telling me the truth. My father's words echoed. Survive. Where do I sign? My voice was hollow. Smart girl. Gregory handed me a pen. Page 3. Initial. Every. I drove the pen into his hand. Gregory howled, weapon dropping as he clutched his bleeding palm. I dove for Michael's gun, fingers closing around cold metal. I'd never held a weapon before. Never wanted to. But as I raised it, pointing at Gregory's chest, something inside me crystallized. My father's daughter. My mother's legacy. 23 years of protection and sacrifice. You were wrong, I said quietly. I'm not a smart girl. I'm a survivor. Gregory laughed through pain. You think this ends with me? The syndicate will deal with me directly. I pulled the hammer back. No intermediaries. No partners. If they want their money, they negotiate with me. They'll kill you. Maybe. My finger touched the trigger. But I'm done being prey. Sirens wailed outside, real ones this time. Red and blue lights flooded through the windows. Michael had pressed something before Gregory shot him. An emergency beacon. FBI! Voices thundered from downstairs. On the ground. Gregory's face twisted. You just signed your death warrant. No, I said. I just rewrote the terms. I lowered the gun as federal agents poured into the room. I chose war. But can I win it? If you're not subscribed yet, you're missing the battle. 3 months later, I stood in my father's study, the corkboard now covered with my own notes, my own investigation. Gregory was in federal custody, singing like a canary. The syndicate's operation was unraveling, arrests daily, assets frozen. The FBI had offered me immunity in exchange for testimony. I'd accepted. With conditions. Michael recovered. The shoulder wound left a scar, but he'd survived. We weren't together, could never be after everything, but he visited occasionally, brought coffee, shared information. Turned out betrayal didn't have to be permanent. The inheritance was locked in litigation, but I'd liquidated enough to rebuild. A modest apartment, a new wardrobe, a lawyer who actually worked for me, and a plan. Miss Walker? My assistant Tanya, a former prosecutor, knocked on the door. The journalist is here for your interview. Send them up. I adjusted my blazer, checking my reflection. My father's eyes stared back at me from the mirror. I'd avoided that resemblance my whole life. Now I owned it. The journalist was young, eager, recording device already running. Thank you for speaking with me. This story, your father's crimes, your mother's murder, the syndicate, it's explosive. That's why I'm telling it, I said simply. Secrets kept me safe once, but silence protects criminals. The syndicate still has members at large. Aren't you afraid of retaliation? Terrified. I smiled without humor. But fear isn't a reason to hide anymore. My father spent 20 years in this mansion, alone with his guilt. My mother died in silence. I met the journalist's eyes. I choose noise. The interview lasted 2 hours. Every detail, every crime, every name I'd uncovered. When the journalist left, I returned to the corkboard. One photograph remained unexplained, a man in the background of my mother's final picture. Unmarked, unidentified. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Impressive interview. But you missed someone. My blood chilled. Another text. Your father protected you. Gregory tried to own you. But we've been watching you since birth, Lydia. And now you've declared war on us. A third message, a photo. Me, Leaving the mansion that morning. Final text. See you soon. The phone slipped from my fingers. Outside, a black sedan pulled away from the curb. Same one from the airport 3 months ago. Same gray-coated man behind the wheel. I picked up my phone, hands steady despite the fear. I typed, "I'm counting on it," and hit send. The war isn't over. It's just beginning. Subscribe now or miss the moment everything explodes. If you're still not subscribed, comment why. What's stopping you from seeing how this ends?